are live. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chats During Naps, where the big question is, will our children, will my children, let us complete the interview? As you can see, I got one little active nugget on my back. Let's see if he will let us complete the interview. So I'm really excited about today because I have an amazing mompreneur on, Carla Bond from Upskill VR. She has such an interesting path towards her CEO-ship, and let's dive in. Carla, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started your company?
So I've been in, I'm gonna have to stop this. Did you catch me looking down at my own hands? It's a habit. But I started, I've been an instructor for quite some time. And I was teaching various type of first responder courses. And I actually just got tired of teaching them the way that they were. I got tired of the PowerPoint. I got tired of seeing the same video. And my fear was that if I passed out 3 months from now, anybody that I taught, are they really going to remember everything that was in this PowerPoint? So I've been an undercover gamer for some time. So I was using VR when it was not as popular as it is right now. And I just kind of got this wild hair that, wait a minute, if children can learn in VR, why can't adults? So I took some time to teach myself VR development. I wouldn't dare call myself a VR developer. I know enough to be able to have a conversation and fix minor problems. And Upskill VR was kind of born from there. I developed our first prototype, and then I found some developers in the UK and worked with them for a little while. And now that we have our VC funding, we have US developers, and everything is kind of just getting really started right now. So,
wow, my kid is amazing too.
I love it. Spoon and all. I know, honey. I know.
We gave him, I wonder what my back will look like after this, because I'm pretty sure some of his snack is on my. That's okay. That's okay.
It's okay.
I'm going to address the elephant in the room here because women-owned businesses are rare in this field. We're talking about thousands of companies in the VR space, and roughly 270 companies have at least one female founder on the board, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's true.
Were there any barriers to entry that you had to overcome?
For me, I'm going to honestly say not as much, because I'm a veteran, and I was able to use a lot of networking opportunities from me being a veteran that kind of bypass the barbed wire that a lot of people get. And I'm not going to say that I didn't get any, but it made that process a lot simpler for me because I'm a veteran. Having networking opportunities that I know that I wouldn't have been able to get had it not been for that. So
got it.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as hard as it could have been.
When you say so, let's talk a little bit about networking. One of the hardest things about networking is, one, putting yourself in front of folks that you never met before, and two, knowing who to network with, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you discover, like, who's who? I like to say who's who in the zoo, like who are the key people that by you networking with them would help propel your business to the next level?
When I started the Bunker Labs WeWork Lab, they have this thing for veterans and residents. Let me rewind back. I actually didn't start there. I used a couple of veterans resources that had entrepreneurship for veterans that went through Syracuse University, and that's where I started my initial networking. And from there, I was able, through some of those speakers, getting cards and just other veterans participating, to hear about different other events that were available. And if it was a free event or if somebody was paying for me to go, I went. And whether it was something that I particularly felt like my business could use, and at that time I didn't know what my business could use, because it was just so much stuff that I just didn't know. So I was just on this quest for information to find out what I was going to need and what I didn't need and all of that stuff like that. So from there, I just met this enormous amount of people that were just there, that believed in me and believed in what I was trying to do. And it's just kind of one block at a time. And some of the Legos didn't fit, and others, and even for the ones that didn't fit initially, what I have found is they fit now. And I just kind of use it and fill myself. You see my mini library behind me with all the information that I can get my hands on, and just use whatever free resources I could get my hands on, and learned as much as I could. And as you seek knowledge, people are readily willing to give it up. And once I realized that, then I just kind of used it.
No, that's awesome. How comfortable was it you to reach out to folks that you didn't know and say, hey, this is my business, and I'm interested in learning more?
I can't say that I'm still comfortable with that. I'm honestly not as comfortable as I probably should be. So I hired a business development specialist that could do it for me, because he enjoys it. And he can take what I'm trying to say and make it sound good so that I know what to say. And then I take his words and I just repeat them. I'm just going to be honest. That's because I know what I'm trying to say sometimes, and it doesn't flow as well as, it may need to be. So I just do it. Once I take the time and do my research and who I'm about to talk to, and then I sit down with people who know how to get, are good with words, know how to get messages across, I then just take my time with it. And so when the time I do have to make those connections, I'm confident in what I'm saying and how I'm gonna say it, and then it just kind of flows. Even there are times that I have the best script in the world to follow and never look down and look at it, because I've taken that time to really get my message that I'm trying to get across, what I'm trying to say, and sticking to what agenda is the reason why I'm calling. Or emailing or whatever, making sure that whatever message that I'm saying is what I wanted to say, so I don't have to think it up. So that would be my best advice to anybody. Don't think it up on the fly. Take your time.
There were so many great nuggets and tips that you just put out there for us. I just want to unpack a couple of them, if that's all right. Okay. The first was preparation. So many of us who are just ready to start our own business, we just want to jump in and just go. And that's great, right? And perfectly moving forward, but you also want to be prepared, right? You want to be able to convey your thoughts in a way that resonates with your intended audience. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And the second thing that you did, which was awesome, is you hired folks that could, again, help your business move to the next level. So a lot of folks out there who are solopreneurs are solo because they may not, either they're uncomfortable with teams, or they may not know how to move forward with folks on a team. And so by you saying, hey, there's there is a known challenge that I have. Let me farm that out. Let me hire someone who's an expert in this in order for me to win ultimately. So that's something that anyone, whether they be a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or someone who's leading a team, to really, celebrate those that you hire and let them do the expertise, let them do what you've hired them to do.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to jump to another question and say, so how have you formed your team, right? Because it takes an awesome team to follow an awesome mission yourself, right?
Sorry. Because it was cutting my forehead off. I was like, oh God. I tried to ignore it, but I'm like, moving down and it wasn't working. I'm sorry, y'all.
How have you been able to form like your all-star team? What was your criteria?
First I looked at myself, and when I examined myself, I realized what I was good at, and more importantly, what I was not.
Right.
And I filled in the gaps with the things that I knew absolutely 100% that either I wasn't going to take the time to do, or I wasn't going to be as effective as somebody else. And I wanted to position myself around people that had passion to do the things that I had no desire to do. and let them be free to express themselves in what they have a passion with. So that was my first number one step, was to examine myself and find out what my weaknesses were, and fill in the gaps with those things. And it worked.
No, that's awesome. When did you realize, I know, earlier you told us a little bit about your background and how you came to create Upskill VR, but how did you know when VR was your passion? Like, this was, you know what, I need to build a company around this.
I don't know if I had that aha moment, or it was exactly that way. Matter of fact, I know it didn't happen that way. I was in VR and I was watching these children come to DC in VR and learn about things in DC. And it just was like, it just kind of hit me. It's like, wait, out of all the tricks and fun stuff that I try to make my CPR classes work, why couldn't I use VR? So it was kind of in that moment. And I wasn't even really sure if it was gonna work. I wasn't. Or even if it could be done. But I figured it was gonna be an absolute no if I didn't try.
Right.
And if it didn't work, I would come up with something different. But originally my business was not headed in a VR direction at all. I was trying to take it virtually, all kind of things, just to make it easier, more efficient, and give people the access to be able to take the trainings that they need and it not be so boring. and it's more cost efficient. There's just all kind of ways that I was trying to do it before, but then I realized it was a better way of doing it. It's where I can get everything all in one, and that's what VR offered. So it was kind of in that moment where I was like, wait a minute, let me try this. And it worked.
Right. Now, I love how you have applied VR to CPR courses. I took one myself when I first had my daughter, and I have to tell you, just performing CPR on a mannequin, it doesn't really sink in like you would want it to. And so for a vast majority of the folks in the audience, I was concerned because, I'm looking at them like, I'm not sure if you were a daycare provider at my child's nursery school or whatever, that you would actually be able to save one of these children. So the fact that you were able to put it in a, quote, a real world environment is awesome. Let's talk about how you were able to, put additional innovation in that as well, right? Before we hopped on our live, you and I discussed one application that you're using it in terms of helping women. Could you talk more about that?
So one of the main points that when I created the software, was to be able to bridge that gap or fill that gap, because they're finding a female CPR mannequin with female anatomy. Good luck with that. So that was in that's a barrier for a lot of people, out of fear, and I wanted to make sure that I covered that. So in our software, women have women anatomy, and the mannequins that we use, we have used sleeves in order to give the feel of what I'll say. The women have breasts, and and we make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be able to practice those skills and get past those fears and everything when it comes down to performing CPR on a woman, and because we're less likely to get it performed simply because of our breasts, especially by our male counterparts, for various reasons, but the reasons are there just the same. And I feel like that some of it that comes down to training, because if you prepare for what you're going to do during training, and if everything that you see is a male anatomy, then something happens and there are extra parts that are there. I can see why some people may pause, and that those moments of pause may cost that woman her life. And that is one of the main things that we're really focusing on right now, is to make sure that we have all that in place to help women, to be able to get rid of that barrier of fear.
Right. You hit the nail on the head. And, as a Navy veteran yourself, right, we know how important training is. You train, you train until you are tired of training, and then you train some more. So when you have a person that's doing their annual qualification, and they do this one time a year, right? And they're only training on and they're only training on male anatomy, it takes a special person to overcome some of those curveballs, right? For a women's anatomy, which is why so many women of all colors really are fortunately less likely to recover from
a cardiac event,
right?
And so, it's just the idea that, and to a certain degree, I understand where the fear comes from, but it still goes right back to training. You don't train pilots. This is the way that I look at it. You don't train pilots to fly huge jetliners using a crop duster. It's not the same. They need to train for all the situations that they're going to be in, just so they can make sure that everyone is safe and the concept is the same. And we have to get beyond that point, because we're born this way, and it doesn't make sense that it should. I can't honestly say where it started, but I know for me, that's one of my missions, is to make sure that it ends.
Absolutely. And it's amazing. Your company is amazing, because in 2020, we are now having a more inclusive CPR program. And it's thanks to companies like yourself who decided, hey, there is a gap in the market of saving lives, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for me, being an EMT, as long as I've been an EMT, it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother any of my partners, because it's something that we do every day.
Right.
Or on a regular basis.
Right.
But for those who don't have that same story, then of course it's like you said in the beginning, then it's one thing when a mannequin and you're practicing on a mannequin, it's another thing when a mannequin becomes a human. So when you put on a headset, it's a human staring back at you with human features. It's a human, and our whole point is to scare you a little bit, and we want those emotions to come out, so when you come out of the environment, you're back into the real world, we can talk about it and talk about what you were feeling, talk about what you were thinking, and put you back into it until there's a certain level of comfort and confidence. And that's a big thing that we want to make sure that you leave with, the confidence that you know that in the event that something happens, that you can help.
You know, that is incredible, and I really appreciate like how you're helping the communities with your platform. Now, I imagine something like this takes a little bit of capital to get started, especially if you want to create change at a national level.
Yeah.
So how did you
breaking up just a little bit?
Oh, okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I imagine how did you fund, you know, and you can give us a 50,000 level overview, just real highbrow. How, what were the initial funding for Upskill VR?
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, did you go through the venture capital route for just, okay. Could you talk a little bit about that process?
Initially, I was bootstrapping it. And once I realized the cost of how much it was going to take to get all of this software developed and all of that, and I knew that it wasn't something I was going to have the passion to start and to do, or the experience. I'm a self-taught developer. So I don't have the skill level that my actual developers have. So I knew then at that point that I could no longer fund the 6-figure point of what it was going to take to do that. So while I was in the VIR, I was able to network through one of my cohort members, put me in contact with my VC that it eventually funded our business. So, and it was an eerily simple process. It was. So through that networking opportunity, is literally he introduced me to somebody that worked for the company. They took it to the CEO. I hopped on a call with them, and that was my first time ever actually pitching to a certain degree my business, and I was a nervous wreck. I was, but it was that simple. And then they agreed to fund it, and I feel like they've said it several times that even though they believe in what I'm doing, they believed in me more than what I was trying to do. And I think that that's the biggest thing when people are trying to get funding, is to make sure that to understand that the people who are going to fund you, they're funding you more than they're funding your business.
Right.
So making sure you have the passion and the drive, and showing that when you see them, and having a plan, even if and to not waste time being trying to get it perfect, because you just want to be the least wrong as possible. Because you're not going to get it right every time, and making sure you surround yourself with people who are going to be there to, one, hold you accountable, and keep you going on the path that you know that you're trying to go, because it gets hard, and even after the funding, that's when the work started. But it's not impossible to do. I would say for me, mine was a pretty streamlined process. I thankfully did not have to go through some of the horror stories that I've heard that it can get. So that it still goes right back to those networking opportunities. You never know what certain opportunities are going to bring, and that particular opportunity wouldn't have worked a year ago. I just wasn't there. And and even though I had it came at the right time.
Right. You know, I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, what you said in terms of there's you getting funding, and that was one that they were funding you, right? So they because they believed in your passion and drive, and so that also goes back to preparation, right? understanding your audience and what resonates with them. You know, if you had gone to a venture capitalist that's, let's say, in the food and beverage industry, I'm not sure how well, you know, it would have aligned, right?
Nope. And that's a big thing, making sure that whoever you're seeking funding for, that they understand what you're doing, even though it may not be something that they do per se. But what you're doing aligns with what they're already funding. And my VC is a social impact investor. So what we do, it aligns perfectly with what their verticals are. So, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of I've seen from other startups that have reached out to me that didn't get the funding that they were trying to get, and quite a few of them were in the situation. They were going to VCs that only funded restaurants, if you will.
Right.
But you're coming to them because you have a fashion line. So it's not that your business is wrong. It's just that wasn't the right investor. And you don't want to have somebody that's investing in you and just giving you money and say, hey, goodbye, go do. No, you want them to be there support. And that's another networking and knowledge opportunity that you can get just from them.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you're a partner as much as you are someone that they're investing in.
Right. You know, the thing that you mentioned as well is, right, you know, at the start of our interview, is that you aren't an expert in VR. And I think that that is actually a benefit, because you can explain things in layman's terms to potential investors, what it is that your company is all about. I think a lot of times founders, especially technical founders, they know all of the ins and outs, and they get real technical to an audience that may not be technical.
No. But I'm not sure what book of the many that I've read, that anything that you do needs to be able to pass the caveman test. So anything that you're trying to tell somebody, if a caveman can't grunt back what you're trying to say, and make, just out for full transparency, I got this from a book. Just don't ask me which one it was. That when you explain things, if you explain it to a caveman, he should be able to grunt what you're saying. So they gave the example of Tylenol. Like, if you're trying to explain what Tylenol does, he should be able to. It fixed me headache, you know. My head hurt, me take pill, you know. It should be that simple when you're explaining it, because if not, it's just your expertise is just gonna go over their head. They don't understand. Not saying so their intelligence, but they know what they know, and you're an expert in what you're an expert in, and it's your job to bridge that gap.
I'm going to take a quick second.
No worries.
While I'm taking this little break, we're coming up on the, about 2 minutes left in our interview time. What would you say is on the horizon for Upskill VR? And what advice would you give to women founders that are just starting out or in the trenches?
Let me start with the first part.
For your company.
So we're still redeveloping our entire software, and we're adding more modules. So CPR is just one of quite a few modules that we have in the work, but CPR is our first focus. And we will be having our Million Heroes campaign in 2021, where we'll take our software and go around the US. And in one calendar year, our goal is to get 1 million people trained and certified in CPR using VR. So that's a big task in and of itself. Those are the two big things that we have going on. And what would I say to people who are in the trenches, is to keep at it. Keep at it. It's like Legos. When you start you're starting with this blank canvas, and certain things may not work out. This piece may not go where you think it should go, but it just always go back to why you started and keep at it, and surround yourself with people who are going to motivate you to keep going. And you are as good as the 5 people that are around you. And I'm probably screwing it up, but essentially it is true that if you surround yourself with people who are going in the same direction, that can understand your struggles, that can understand what you have going on, and you guys can kind of keep each other accountable and motivate each other to keep going and be honest. And that's the thing, getting around people who are going to be honest with you. You want to know and not be afraid of hearing something that you may not like, but it's something that you need to hear in order to make your business successful. Criticism is not always bad. And just like I said, stick with your why and keep at it. That's the thing. No matter what's going on, if you know this is what you were put on this earth to do, you stick to it. I don't care how many no's you got it. Because like Mark Cuban said, you only need to be right once.
Right. Carla, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your patience with my my youngest live attendee.
He's so cute. Leave him alone. He's cute. I have children too, girl. Don't. I get it. It's called Chats During Naps for a reason. So, and I really appreciate this opportunity. This was so fun, and he's so cute.
Awesome. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We really appreciate you. I hope you got some wonderful nuggets from Carla, Upskill VR. I know I did. Take care, and I'll see you next nap time.
Bye.
Bye.